Well, let's follow up on the new childcare deal with Canada's Minister of Families, Children and Social Development. She's Karina Gould. Minister Gould, thanks for taking time to speak with me tonight. Ontario has some of the highest childcare rates in the country, as you know. Families are facing higher costs of living in a number of different areas. How much will this deal save families on childcare costs?
Well, so first of all, Peter, it's such a great day for families in Ontario. They are now joining families across the country who are part of the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Agreement. This agreement will save families on average of $6,000 starting at the end of this year. So families are going to see a 25% reduction in fees as of April 1st or retroactive to April 1st, and then another 25% in December of 2022, making a 50% reduction. And that will be the equivalent of about $6,000 a year.
How quickly will the province get to $10 a day daycare? I'm just looking at the two. The federal release said March of 2026. The Ontario release says September 2025. There's a bit of a discrepancy there. What can you tell us about that?
Well, so we require that each province and territory that signs on agrees to do this by March of 2026. But different provinces and territories have different schedules. And so Ontario has committed to getting to $10 a day by September 2025. And so that's the objective, and that's what they've committed to doing.
Gotcha. Ontario, unlike some other provinces, got a commitment of nearly $3 billion more for year 6 of the deal, the first year after the deal. How's that different from what other provinces negotiated?
It's really not different at all, in the sense that this was already announced in our budget in 2021, that following the 5-year agreements that we would sign up to the year 2026, there would be about $9 billion on an ongoing basis. And so the real difference is that Ontario asked that we write what that notional allocation would be following the 5th year into our agreement. But just like every other province and territory, they would still need to renew the agreement to access those funds.
A lot of people have that question, and I know you've talked about $9 billion on an ongoing basis. What should Canadians expect? What should the provinces expect about ongoing federal funding to keep childcare in the country at an average of $10 a day beyond 2026?
Mm-hmm. So in budget 2021, the federal government committed $30 billion over the next 5 years, and then $9 billion on a year on an ongoing basis. So the federal government is there for the long term. We see that there needs to be a partnership between the federal government, the provinces, and the territories to maintain this commitment over the long term. And so that's what we've committed to do. We've signed 5-year agreements because this is a brand new initiative. And so we want to get this right. We want to be able to measure against the benchmarks that we've put in place and adjust as needed. And so, Canadians can rest assured that the federal government will be there for the long term, providing this really important historic funding on an ongoing basis.
All right, you were clearly at the center of the negotiations, and for months and months, the province of Ontario, Doug Ford and his government said the offer from Ottawa, look, it's not enough to help Ontario deliver $10 a day daycare, and they'd hold out for a better deal. What did they get by holding out?
It's pretty similar to what we probably would have negotiated earlier, but at the same time, it is good for Ontario. I have said this from day one, that there was a fair deal on the table. There is a good agreement for Ontario families, and that's what we were always going to be negotiating. I mean, from our perspective at the federal level, we want to deliver this for families, and we need to do that with a provincial partner, and I'm really pleased that we have one now with the government of Ontario.
How confident are you that the lack of an agreement on childcare would have been a key voter issue in the upcoming election campaign, which is just around the corner in Ontario, and that might have influenced the timing somewhat?
Perhaps. I won't comment on the provincial election, but I can say that in the federal election, I heard from people of all ages, all genders, all backgrounds, that they wanted this childcare agreement done, and they wanted this delivered in Ontario. You know, as you mentioned, Peter, families in Ontario pay some of the highest prices around the country. It ends up being, it doesn't end up being a choice for a lot of families because they can't necessarily afford to work and to pay for childcare. And so lowering those fees, increasing those spaces is actually going to be great for families, and it's going to be really good for our economy.
The deal also promises the creation of 86,000 new high-quality childcare spaces in Ontario. Will they be not-for-profit spaces?
So the vast majority of them will be. Ontario has, the vast majority, 70% of the existing licensed spaces are in not-for-profit care. And so Ontario has committed to maintain or increase the ratio of not-for-profit spaces to for-profit spaces. Ontario has, probably the largest share of not-for-profit spaces across the country. And so we are allowing for some flexibility in terms of those spaces, but predominantly they do need to be in the not-for-profit sector.
Right. The agreement also speaks, we'll finish on this, speaks to the need to encourage more people to work in childcare by improving compensation. How will that happen in an area of provincial jurisdiction? How do you force better wages in a province?
Well, so the federal government can't force it, but we did and do encourage them. So one of the things that we require in all of the agreements is to have a wage grid. It's up to the province or territory to determine what that is, but it has to show growth for the childcare sector workforce. And so in the case of Ontario, Ontario has committed to ensuring that the minimum wage for childcare workers is $18 an hour, and they're going to increase it by $1 an hour every year up to a maximum of $25 an hour. So that's positive. It's a step in the right direction. I think we've heard very loudly and very clearly from the sector that they need more because we can't grow spaces. We can't have quality care without ECEs. So it's a good step in the right direction. And we're certainly encouraging provinces and territories to do more.
All right, Karina Gould, thanks for your time again tonight, Minister, and we'll talk again soon, I hope.
Thank you, Peter.